Welcome to The Real Build. I'm your host, Bill Reiman, your broker builder. And today I have a special guest coming from Baltimore, Maryland. He owned his own development and contracting business and was COO of a large design build firm out of Chicago. He has entitled and developed over 2,200 acres of residential land and built over 80 custom homes. The teams he led, designed, and built over $25 million a year in contract value. That's very impressive. During the downturn, his company provided due diligence, pro forma creation, site investigation, development, construction, and sales operations for private equity projects located across the country. And most importantly, he was a longtime captain in the United States Marine Corps. Thank you for your service. Spencer Padgett, welcome to The Real Build. Thank you for coming on. How you doing today?
Great, Bill. Thanks for having me here. I'm really looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this too. It's a topic that, I haven't really gotten into with all the construction management stuff. So I'm looking forward to kind of diving into your background as a builder personally, and then how you've become, part of the technology world now, which is very impressive too. So I always like to get started too with, you explaining a little bit about your background. So let's talk about who is Spencer Padgett.
Well, I think as I've gotten older, and I'm in my mid-40s now, as I've gotten older, that question, oddly enough, becomes more complicated. It was so easy back when I was a Marine. But who am I? I mean, I'm married to my best friend. Got 4 sons ranging from 11 to 18. I've got a kid in college, which just blows my mind. He's doing great down at Georgia Tech. I'm a offshore ocean racing sailboat driver. Love sailing. I sailed on the sailing team at the Naval Academy and kind of learned the ropes, if you will, there. And by trade, I'm a land developer and custom home builder. And now, like you said, I'm with the internet. I'm with technology. So that's my background.
Nice. And so, that's impressive too. Sailboat racing, and I never knew that, and never would have thought about that. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty cool, man.
It's a fun time, especially when someone else owns the boat.
Yeah. There you go. So let's talk about you and construction a little bit more, because off the intro, obviously, I touched on a lot of different things that you were involved in the construction industry. So let's get started with, your construction background and what was the reason you got into construction?
It's an interesting one. In my current position, I speak to hundreds of builders a year, and often the story is, I was born into construction. My dad did it, and I was around, construction growing up and pounding nails as long as I can remember. And that's absolutely not my story. I was always a widget, kind of a builder, liked structures and building things as a kid. But I didn't get into construction right off the bat. I obviously, went into the Marine Corps, and I would say I was more into the destruction a little bit, into the demolition a little bit more to start. Got my first taste of construction over actually in Kosovo, overseas, during that whole little thing that was happening there, and some of the things that we needed to do for the Marine Corps. And when I came back, I was on a business trip for the Marine Corps, if you can believe that, out in Southern California. And I was sitting overlooking the Pacific Coast Highway, and there was a guy next to me, didn't know who he was. And there was a stoplight. And at the stoplight, there were 3 like really awesome cars, Lamborghini, Ferrari, something else. And I asked him, what is it that people do around here that makes them like be able to accumulate so much wealth if there's that much hardware sitting at this stoplight? And he said, they're either actors, they're doctors, or they're real estate moguls out here. And I got to thinking about it back in my hotel room, and I'm not an actor, don't like blood, so I'm not going to be a doctor. And so the real estate thing was I was entrepreneurial at heart, and I kind of thought that might be an interesting thing. And that night there was an ad on TV for Carlton Sheets. And if you're old enough to remember who Carlton Sheets is, you'll know that he's the classic, buy property without using any of your own money, kind of, midnight on the pay-per-view, pitch salesman. and I bought his courses. And then when I got back to the DC area, I just started buying property, and I was still in the Marine Corps, and this was 20 years ago now. And that's the start of it. I started buying property and renovating. I had a crew that would renovate while I was doing the things I was doing in Washington, DC. And I started buying a bunch of houses and rolling through them. That's how I got into the business.
And that's, I mean, and you do hear, I mean, I'm one of them actually. What you explained there is, I grew up in a business. So my dad's been doing, since I was a little kid, I've been working with him, and you kind of grow to love it. It grows to be a part of you. When I always say this, when I was sweeping jobs and digging the ditches out I always told myself, I'm never going to do this. I'm not going to work in this business. But as time goes by and you learn more and you do more and you learn all the trades, you end up, it's what you're good at, and and you're a different story. I mean, you getting into it, and I spoke about this on my last podcast, you actually having that personal experience and diving into it and doing, buying land, that's helped you too on the real estate end. You learned a lot on that. Did you do any flips or anything like that when you first got into it?
That was when I first got into it. That was the taste of it. And I moved out of it. I moved out of flipping when a builder approached me, and I was doing really well, because you couldn't not do well in 99, 2000, 2001. You would just buy stuff and it would go crazy no matter what you did to it or how bad you messed it up. The market carried you. And I got out of it because there was a home builder that I met at a meeting, and he said, I've got a couple lots and I've got a cash flow crunch right now, and I'd like to offload a couple lots. You're interested? And I was like, yeah, I'm doing well. Let's try something new. And I turned around and sold both of those lots to another home builder before I even settled on them for $100,000 more than I paid for more than I had them under contract for. It was like the classic case of, oh my God, this is real. That's when I decided it was time to get out of the Marine Corps. I started having sons, and I was in through 9/11, and 9/11 happened, and I was stopped there at the headquarters, or at the Marine Barracks in Washington, DC for 9/11 and the time frame after. And it was, the Marine Corps is somewhat of a young man's sport, or a young person's sport. And starting a family, I wanted to get out and pursue my entrepreneurial dream. And that was kind of my ability to eject and get out, was that deal.
Yeah. And once again, I appreciate the service too, because I mean, and I'm sure you being a Marine too, like we talked about before, my dad was a Marine, and it teaches you so much more than a lot of people even can understand, and you going into business too. And that's actually one of the topics I'm going to go into with you. But first, you spent, probably 15 years in the construction industry. So let's discuss let's talk about the different types of construction that you've done. Because I know you've done, me doing my research on you, you've done some big builds, and let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So, product type. I mean, I've done so much horizontal entitlement and construction of large land development projects, anywhere from taking a lot and splitting it in half to doing 750 lots in larger projects, multi-use kind of projects. Most of that in the state of Maryland, some of it in some other parts during the downturn, like you mentioned at the beginning. I was working with a private equity company to entitle and dispose of, if you will, problem projects. I've from a construction standpoint, I've built everything from, my first home was 1,000 square foot modular home. The largest home that I've worked on is 30,000 square feet. I've done age restricted villas in North Maryland, townhouses, all kinds of single family, semi-custom, and then custom homes, and interspersed in there with some light commercial, some historic remodeling in downtown Annapolis of some commercial buildings. So really a broad gamut of, or range, if you will, of all the different kind of building products that are out there.
And so as far as, your homes up there, just because obviously my show is more directed towards the customer, how, up where you're at, I know you kind of did it in different areas. You were in Chicago one time, and then you were around the Baltimore, Maryland area. So how are the homes built there, and what should people look for when building so, they know that they're getting that quality product?
Yeah, so Maryland, and like you mentioned, I did run a design build firm that was very high-end custom out of Chicago, but Chicago, it was really like the several states around the Chicago metropolitan area. That's a different home product up there than in the Mid-Atlantic. So in the Mid-Atlantic, your home types are very typical in terms of wood construction, 2x6 walls, asphalt shingle roofs, but you can obviously go anywhere you want with that. A good quality home. I've seen things from some of the larger builders that were a little bit concerning in terms of the sheathing on the exterior of the house, where it was more of a foam product. I always have built with a solid product on the exterior of the house. We use what's called the zip wall, which is, if anyone's familiar, it's the green board that has a vapor barrier already put onto it, so you don't have anything blowing around in the wind. That type of construction, where you've got some control of the humidity going in and out of the house, the vapor is a great thing to look for. From a construction standpoint, in the Mid-Atlantic, you're going to see very typical vinyl siding, stone fronts, brick fronts, and it's from a building science perspective, it's pretty dialed in, and I think it's comparable to most of the construction you see anywhere else in the country. It's just designed for that climate zone in the Mid-Atlantic area.
Okay. Yeah. Cause it's similar in a lot of ways. And then there's differences obviously too. Down here, we're using more concrete blocks, stuff like that, but then we're dealing with the hurricanes and, and structural. So pilings, we're building on top of pilings too. And so on. But it's always interesting for me to hear too, and the differences, because everybody I talk to, I've had builders from Oklahoma, I've had builders from New Jersey, and it's always different in some kind of way, even Canada too.
For sure.
So it's always interesting. So what about building trends too in that area? What were you seeing as far as trends that people were going more towards?
Well, over the last 15 years, we saw a real tightening of the building envelope.
Okay.
There was spray foam, solid spray foam. Then that became an issue where it was almost too tight, and then there was makeup air had to be brought into the house, so it wasn't a sick home. What we've seen now in the Mid-Atlantic area is a really strong move towards the split systems from an HVAC system. Instead of having large central units, one per house, 2 or 3 per house, being able to control multiple zones in a house using the mini splits. If you're seeing that where you're at, but that seems to be a pretty solid move in the energy efficiency direction. I've installed a ton of solar on homes from Chicago all the way through the Mid-Atlantic. One thing that was really prevalent in the Chicago area that I hadn't seen so much in Maryland was the use of whole home generators. And I would imagine in Florida, they probably have a few of them.
Yeah.
Like
big
that,
time.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think the Mid-Atlantic deals with a lot of snow, right? And a lot of heated porches and things like that to help keep the snow away from the side of the house and not allow it to build up. I think that overall, what I've seen is a ratchet up in the adoption of the latest building science and building materials that are really helping structures not just become less expensive to build, because they're really not less expensive to build, but they're a better product to build, better able to wick away moisture from the sheathing, better able to allow the attic of the house to breathe, and just better overall built environments inside for customers. And that's really what it's all about. Is we're not building pretty boxes on lots. We're building places where people literally make the dreams that they are hoping to make out of their life come true. And having a better built environment is key to that.
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, because even with the first thing you said too, with energy having energy efficiency, and especially where I'm at, because it's so hot down here most of the year. Now we're a little bit colder. We get down to the 60s. Gets a little cold for us down here.
You're wearing a short sleeve shirt. I'm in the vest.
Yeah, you got the long sleeve with the sweater, but we 50s are probably the tops, the coldest again for us Floridians. That's pretty cold, but no, I mean we've been there's a lot of focus on the energy efficiency now with low E and glass, and then tightening everything and doing the spray foam insulation but open cell so it breathes still. Just closing and sealing up the house as much as possible too, to get that electric bill down to where the ACs aren't running as much as they were, because I mean you could see a major difference too. It's like you said, construction's it's coming so far every single year. There's new products and new developments coming out. Yeah, we're different in different areas, but we're a lot the same. As far as interior stuff, we're pretty much the same. It's just the exteriors that we have the differences and so on. But yeah, you're spot on with that.
Bill, how I explain it to my clients was if the folks that are buying houses now, if you were to look back at the cars built in the 1980s, right, or even 70s, 80s, even into the early 90s, and you look at how unreliable they were from a noise, vibration, harshness, just they didn't last over 100,000 miles. And if you look at the least expensive cars being built today, they're amazing, right? They'll go for 250,000 miles and have very little maintenance in terms of it's very similar in home building, where we've been able to come up with these components for homes that work together well, because everyone's interests are aligned. Builders don't want buyers to have warranty issues with their house because it's reputationally a horrible thing and it costs a lot. So they want to invest a little bit more so that we can have a better product in it, and it shows in the end product.
Yeah, exactly. I love that example. That's spot on too. Because I mean, if the way we're building them too, especially down here, and especially with the hurricane protection that we deal with, that they're almost like I say they're almost like a mini fortress. They're not going to go anywhere. It's crazy the amount of structural that goes into these homes and sitting on top of pilings alone, and then the elevations too. And that's what a lot of people down here don't see, is that we're required by code to be 10 foot, 11 foot above sea level. So when the news is reporting storms coming in and cars are floating away and the water's up to the peak of the roof, that's not true, because they're measuring from sea level. So it's crazy how far things have come to compared to the older homes.
We have an office, or the company out of Chicago has an office in Key Largo, because we have clients down at the Ocean Reef Club. And so after the last hurricane that went through the Keys, and you're familiar, right? It was just relatively recently. There was a big push by FEMA to have local builders go through and inspect houses and look at things. So we were going around, and it was a disaster, no doubt. But the homes that were blown away or that washed away or that were damaged were homes that were not built to code. They were not built recently. You'd go down the street, and the homes that were built in the last 5 or 10 years were fine. They were absolutely fine. It was just the ones that, that there's a reason why they didn't withstand the storm, is because they weren't built well.
And that's where, like where I am in Marco Island, we got hit head on by that's by Irma when it came up, and you can tell a big difference between the older homes and the newer homes just driving around. I mean, a lot of the older homes, there was a lot of issues, a lot of water damage, a lot of roof issues and so on, but the new homes, they're barely even phased, maybe a couple roof tiles here and there. So it's just a huge difference, like you said.
It's good commentary on how well homes are being built these days.
Definitely. So I want to go into, I brushed on this a little bit, but it's so important. You were in the military for a long time. You were in the Naval Academy, and then you were an officer in the Marine Corps. Yeah. What lessons did you learn from these experiences that have helped you in business and in your life?
There's just not a part of any of my business or life that weren't touched by my experience in the Marine Corps. I would say that from a personal and professional perspective, the biggest thing is perspective. I used the word twice there, I guess, but that's the truth. It's perspective. When the chips are down in your business, sometimes you've got to do what's necessary, not what you want to do, right? But you understand, you have this perspective that it might be difficult now, but everything's surmountable at some point in one way or another. So I think that the perspective that the military gives you, and the respect for the people that are that work with you, and when I say work with you, I don't mean work for you. I mean work with you. It's whether they're part of your company or you work for them. Having that mutual respect and having each other's back is something that helps team building in business. There's a certain amount of humility that I think comes with being in the Marine Corps and leading Marines, and that translates into business. That you recognize that you may think you're something else, but there's always someone that's better, and you never know when something's going to happen that knocks you down a peg. And that was something that I really took from the Marine Corps. And the other thing is just this knowing what it's like to serve, because as a builder, I didn't look at my customers as people just paying the bills. It was, I decided to serve the people that I was building homes for, and I looked at it that way. And my favorite holiday as a builder was Thanksgiving, because that was the time when I would sit in my own dining room with my family and say, I've built all these homes where people are now gathering with their families and having an amazing, time and recording the memories of their life. And, that desire to serve, and that understanding what it means to serve, I can definitely root that in the Marine Corps, or at least bringing me to the Marine Corps and through it.
And I mean, it's like you just said, I mean, if you can go through that, you can get through anything, that's for sure too. And that's what you guys learn, obviously, too, is, I mean, anybody in life's going to be knocked down, but you going through what you did and serving like you did too, I mean, that there's better days ahead all the time, and you can get yourself out of something too, no matter what. So
and you realize that it's not just you, though. It's that team that you have. It's the people with you, right? Like the most difficult personal and professional times of my life, I've been able to look across the room at my wife and knew that she had my back, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to figure it out, and we did. So that's the kind of perspective that it gave me.
That's awesome. So kind of going off of that too, so what major challenges what were some major challenges that you faced in construction that maybe affected your customers as well, and how can we as builders prevent this?
Boy, there's been so many different so many different challenges. I mean, the home building is nothing but a daily challenge, right? A series of problems that you have to come up with solutions to. I would say, if you were to look at the root cause of most of the problems that I encountered as a builder, it had to do with communication and not properly setting expectations, whether you're communicating in person or whether you're communicating online, trying to share details. There was just a miss. Either you didn't do it, or you didn't do it correctly and didn't make that connection. And whether it was a client disappointed in what happened because the expectation wasn't set correctly, or we just didn't receive the information or the details that we needed to in a timely manner, that created a tense situation with our customer. It all has to do with communication.
Yeah, and I've spoke about this with pretty much every builder I've had on my show too. Communication is probably the key to the whole entire process, no matter what, from start to finish. I mean, even prior to even penciling in that customer on a contract, if you're not communicating throughout that initial process, where even you're bidding their job or pricing their job with them constantly, you're probably more than likely not going to get that job. So, and then you go to the next segment as a contractor and you do have the job, but then you got to communicate through the process. Otherwise they're going to be aggravated, because there's so many pieces to this industry, as you know, too. Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
Yep.
So, I wanted to kind of go into this too a little bit with you. So a lot of customers deal with divide. I mean, this is kind of on the communication topic, like we were talking about. They feel like they are not always getting the information throughout, enough information throughout the process. A lot of customers struggle to understand, the whole entire process, and they also struggle to understand budgets. What are some ways as builders we can prevent this?
You have to kind of peel the onion back and find out, and I said the word root cause before, right? And if you're not conveying the details or understanding the details as a builder well enough to convey them succinctly and in a manner that your client understands it, then you have to look inside and figure out why that is. Mm-hmm. And I go all over the country right now consulting with other builders that use the system that I work with. And the first thing that we do is map out their process. And I say, hey, listen, it doesn't matter if it's a 3-ring binder on a shelf, or if it's a whiteboard on the wall, or if it's a manila folder in the office manager's desk. If it's part of what you do when you interact with customers, let's map it out. Mm-hmm. And then let's figure out what works and what doesn't, and come up with a solution, whether that's putting it in a Google Drive or Dropbox, or figuring out how you can do your email more effectively, or using some sort of online like Excel spreadsheet that everyone can see instead of it being hidden on one person's computer. There's so many different solutions, Trello boards and things like that you can use as a builder to collect the information so that and you have the details that are so important to convey to that customer, whether it be pricing or scope or name it. So okay. That's the advice I would give.
Yeah. I mean, so other than communication too, I mean, getting, so what other things can builders implement into their business to help guide customers throughout the process too, other than communication related devices?
Well, understanding what your process is part of the initial selling.
Yeah.
So being able to say to a customer, this is what it's going to be like to work with me, mm-hmm. right? This is what your experience is going to be like, and having those kind of, like, whether it's previous customers that have written referrals for you and so on, that would be an ideal way of being able to demonstrate that. And of course, there's an important piece of it is, do you know your numbers, right? Mm-hmm. Are you aware of, is your budget correct? Because that's an uncomfortable conversation to have with a client after you've signed a contract, right? That mm-hmm. issues. So, and then being confident of the team that you have on the execution side, whether it's your own staff or a trade partner / supplier that might be working on your projects with you. Having confidence in those folks and knowing what they're capable of allows you to make the commitments and execute the projects that you promise your customers you will when you sign them up.
So basically, it's just setting the expectation out up front, and I talk about that a lot too and it's because it's so important, because there's things that come up throughout the process too that a lot of the times can be sticker shocking. Let's put it that way, and especially where we're at. And I try and, like today, I met with a couple that we're going to be building for, but I try and point out too, all right, here's some major things that can pop up that we're not sure about, because we are on an island, dirt and fill is not cheap. Yeah. So there's some things that we don't know until we get a survey and they shoot the heights of the dirt and so on. And then pilings is another one. I don't know how far those are going to go down. I'm just letting you know, we'll cover up to this amount. And no matter how much you tell them, usually though, when it happens, because by the time we go, they're permitting here and so on. And then we get to that, and then they get that bill, they question it and say, well, what is this about? So, but it's just trying to get it out up front so you can try and remind them that you said it too. And throughout the process too, it's like you said too, having that team that can continue everything without issue and just keep it as smooth as possible. And that's what we're going to get into today now, of what you actually are doing, which is very important too. and every builder should be doing this. So over about a year ago now, you made a big change, after spending most of your career in the construction industry and having a successful career in it. You transitioned into the technology world.
Yes.
This is, way different than what you were used to, obviously. And so what made you make the change? And so let's talk about what you're doing now a little bit too.
Sure. So I work at a company called CoConstruct, and CoConstruct is I would describe it as an enterprise business management platform for home builders and remodelers. And it takes everything from the first time a client contacts a builder on their website, all the way through the communication process and the financial piece, the scheduling piece, making selections, and into the warranty phase of a project, and ties it all together into one package that you have access to on the internet and on your phone, which is an amazing thing to be able to collapse all of those solutions that home builders come up with individually into one application. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely a fantastic thing to see happen inside of a business. And I have been using CoConstruct as a home builder for 10 years, and had been. And the way I transitioned into the actual company was I'd been using it and asking questions and kind of breaking things and making it work for the way I wanted it to work, and asking them to change things, and they were changing it. And then I was going all over the place. I have a bunch of friends who are builders and saying, hey, you know what? I figured this thing out and it's made this difference in my company, and you should try it this way. And so I was flying all over the place, just helping people with their business process. And the founder of CoConstruct said, we need a builder in our company to help our staff understand those kind of nuances of how the software works and how we can make the business process better. Because if the builder's business process is better, the home buyer's experience is better, right? And so I said, this is an opportunity for me to not just make a difference in one home building company like the one that I was working at in Chicago, but to be able to expand out and impact thousands of building companies. There's over 5,000 home building companies that use our software, and today they're building $14 billion worth of houses today that we're actually recording this on the system. So it's a fantastic opportunity for me personally to help make a difference to a bunch of builders and then transversely their homeowners.
Yeah, and it's such an important thing too, because about a year ago too, we started researching technology companies and so on too. I wasn't familiar with yours at the time, and I mean it just to streamline the process and get rid of the old school mentality as a builder. I mean, because I'll use me as an example. I mean, we were very old school, paper everywhere. It was just kind of, it wasn't organized. It wasn't the communication with the customer, which is so big, like me and you talked about. It just wasn't there like it should. And then I'm going out to a job site and taking pictures with my phone and emailing them to them, instead of putting it all on one platform.
Yeah.
And never even knew you can do that. And just like having the books all organized and having a scheduling thing, and just there's so much you can do with your platform. It just helps everybody. I mean, 100%.
It's a total game changer. And that's not just saying that. I've lived it. I mean, I've lived it, and it's a magical thing to be able to take a home builder, because when a home builder calls CoConstruct, we have to listen, because they're having a problem, right? They don't call us because things are going great and they've got everything figured out. They're calling because they want to get better, right? They want to do something more effectively, or maybe they're trying to recover from an issue that they had on a previous project. And it's really a great thing to see them come on board, realize the value, and have those aha moments where it's like, wow, I can put all my communication right here, and it keeps track of it. And my clients appreciate the fact that I'm organizing all of those things for them. It's fantastic to watch. It's a great company, great people.
So let's kind of go deeper into, how a builder can utilize your product and the technology. Like, what are some of the things they can do just so the listener knows, because I got a few builders that listen to the show too, and there's still, like I said, there's still a lot of builders that haven't even thought twice about it, because I know you got to pay for it. But if you think about the cost and everything, it all equals out because of the worth and the value that you're getting, and how streamlining everything, like you're saying too. So what are the best ways they can utilize the technology as a builder?
Well, let me tell you that the reason why I came to CoConstruct was because I had a 3-story set of stairs at a waterfront home in Annapolis that I had put in, and I had missed a detail on the scallop on the side of the stair box, and the client wouldn't have it. And what that set of stairs cost me to rip out and then put back in would have paid, if I had it, it would have paid for CoConstruct for 5 years. And so the cost is not a factor. It really is so inexpensive, and it's so much less. It's operational insurance, if you will. But the biggest thing that we see customers coming to us for is that communication thing. It's the ability to take your whole project team, and by the project team I mean your customer, your trade partners, your suppliers, your whole staff as a home building company, and have everyone talking about the same information and being able to look at the same information in one spot. And from communication, we see budgeting and the estimating piece, so that clients get a more accurate, precise number up front because of the templates that we use and the ability to bid things out from a home builder's perspective. There's a lot of fidelity in the numbers that we're able to collect, and the quickness with which we're able to get our builders from the initial time that they talk to a homeowner to the time they have a proposal for a homeowner, right? So there's that piece. And then you take it off to the other side, and it's the scheduling piece. And now all of that's tied in together, the communication, the numbers, the schedules. And when the schedules are tied together with communication, both out to the suppliers and the trade partners and your clients, the project moves along the critical path. And that gets things done. Your clients know when a selection's supposed to be made. The selections are made on time to support the project manager in the field. You're not waiting for paint colors or selections on lighting or plumbing fixtures. It's just a magic thing when it all comes together, and it comes together really well in the software. Those are the 3 main things that we see.
Yeah, and like I've found out using management software too. I mean, it streamlines everything, and it makes it, if you utilize it fully. And right. And me and you will talk about that after that. That's a whole different topic. But it's something, once I got introduced to it, it was like, it's a whole new world that opens up to you. I mean, and I really do think that every builder should be using it, and especially on the bidding end, like you said too. That process, going from me doing it on a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, into a platform that can organize it into a professional manner, that could send it and get it to a client.
Yes,
they can just sign off on it right there. It's huge too. So what about, if you're a builder? If a builder uses a platform like CoConstruct, how does it benefit the customer? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's ultimately what it's all about, right? Is how can you deliver a better product in the right price point in the right time frame? And as a builder serving a customer, I was always looking through my client's lens, right? They're from their perspective. We talked about perspective earlier. And I've found over the years that it doesn't matter if it's that 1,000 square foot house that I first built or the 30,000 square foot client. Everybody has a budget, right? Every client has a budget, whether it's 100,000 or 10 million, whatever the number is in between. If you go over it, people get uncomfortable. So every client's worried about their budget. So if you can address that concern, that's huge, right? Everybody's worried about the schedule because there's commercials and books and all these kind of things that make fun of builders and remodelers. And although, just add 50% or double the time they tell you, and they'll walk off the job and all that kind of stuff. So people are always concerned about timing, their schedule. So you got budget, schedule. And then the world we live in is full of unlimited information, details, shows, HGTV, you name it, magazines, websites, Pinterest. it's overwhelming for people. So their third thing that they're concerned about is details, right? Who's going to track the details? I watched this show. I saw this backsplash. I love this tub. I've collected all this stuff in this big stack. Now, who's going to make sure that it gets done? And so as a builder, you're able to serve those three major issues that every buyer has with a piece of software like CoConstruct. They're able to track their schedule. You're able to notify them in time to make sure that decisions are made so they stay on schedule. You can create an accurate budget. You can then make sure that the client has the flexibility to make the decisions to keep their budget right where they want. So there's not a big surprise at the end of the project, right? And then there's just so much detail that you can keep in an organized fashion that isn't overwhelming to the customer. 2,000 decisions I've heard is what you make in a custom home building project.
Yeah.
It could be that much. It could be more. It could be less. I don't know.
It's probably more. Yeah.
Seems like forever when you're in the middle of it, right? But those three things are from a builder's perspective, and how it helps a builder serve a customer better is really where the rubber meets the road for the software. And it helps us fulfill our mission, which is to help make the building experience better for builders and then therefore their customers.
It's like the thing we keep going back to too. It's the communication factor. So when you have that platform too, and then it streamlines, not only streamlines the process, but they can see everything in front of their own eyes. That gains more of a trust factor too. Because let's face it, as builders, one thing we struggle with too is somehow, some way, and especially down here, I got a lot of seasonal residents, so they're on their second home. And it's a second home that they're building besides up north, and they might have got screwed by another builder up north. So they're so hesitant to sign anything or do anything, prior to, and we go all out as far as builder. And I talk about this, that we spell out so much detail too. And a lot of them don't even trust you on the number. If you're the more expensive builder, they can't comprehend why. And I guess it's just, there's so many factors to it, and you understand what I'm saying. Not a lot of people, that if you're not in this industry, you would. But having that and that extra form of trust so that they can see that you are doing what you are saying you're doing too is so valuable, and then the scheduling factor too, where they can see, okay, here's the timeline I'm at. You can take the pictures out in the job site too. They can communicate back and forth that way. It's huge.
Bill, as a builder, we're all aware that everybody consumes information on these things, right? You can go to one of your customers and say, you see my company logo right here on your phone. When you press that, you're going to have all the information you need about your project, all the decisions you need to make. You're going to have the latest pictures from today and the notes from today about what's happening at your house, especially in scenarios where you're building second homes for people in different states. If you can close the gap between where they're at right now, we've got clients that are vacationing in Dubai for months, yet they're able to see the house being built in real time instantly on their phone. And that really calms a homeowner down if they're able to see information right here.
No, big time. And especially if it's just not, and it's like I said too, the old way was, and it's not even the old, but still people are doing it, taking pictures and emailing them the updates on the, if there's a draw due, okay, I'll send you pictures of it. But now they could actually see the process as it is, and it communicates every single thing to them just by an app on their phone, it's 10 times better too, because everybody has one, as we know. So that's the thing. So let's talk about you a little bit more too. How have you linked your experiences you had in the construction industry to your new career in the technology world with CoConstruct?
That is truly the fundamental core of what I do at CoConstruct. Is I joke that I came in here and I taught all the tech folks here at CoConstruct how to use every 4-letter word in the English language, just because, hey, I was a Marine and a builder, so you need to know what builders are thinking, right? But there's such a difference between the theoretical and the actual, right? And we have really some of the smartest people I've ever met coding and deeply thinking through the processes that we should be using as a home building industry to make this work well, right? But even the best plan on a whiteboard or in a brain doesn't necessarily translate into where muddy boots in a pickup truck are trying to get the work done. And so being able to say, it's great that we have that solution, but we should really maybe think about tweaking it in a little way so that the people who need the information immediately in the field are getting this information first.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to bring the industry experience into the tech side has been great. And then being able to turn right around and take the understanding that I have of how the software works and how it fits all together, and then being able to go back out to the home building community through our online community, through talking at the International Builders Show, through going and consulting with customers in their offices, helping them level up their business through better business process, has been, I just love it. It's a great way of being able to spend my days helping builders become better builders and serve their customers better. And it's kind of the virtuous circle of, I learned a lot, good and bad in the home building business, because you have all kinds of experiences, and I've been able to translate and filter that through. Hopefully it helps us make a better product that serves our customers better, and then has a virtuous effect on the results in the communities that they're building in.
Well, yeah, and a great example of that. I mean, you swung a hammer. I mean, that's plain and simple. Not everybody in that office probably has and knows what you were in the trenches. You saw everything that goes on from the ground up, and then you having that background too, you can implement the things that affected you, but you know how to communicate with other builders better too. I could use it as like the architect example. An architect draws a plan. They don't always know what goes on in the field, and and they can put something, make it look pretty on paper, but then out in the field it might not work. And us as builders, we have to figure it out and make it work to where it still looks good, isn't a costly error on the architect's part, and so on. So that's where you come in.
Bill, if any of your customers who are thinking about buying a house or listening to this or going to build a custom home,
mm-hmm.
I would strongly recommend that they have a builder and an architect working together.
Yeah.
Right? You go find a builder that you can trust and you like, and let him or her recommend a good architect to build or to design the type of product that you would like to have designed, and then let them work together to make sure that there's no miscommunication in budgets and specs and things like that. That is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. I actually just did that with some people today, like I was talking about, and they had a plan previously, but then they brought it to me, went through the plan. There was a lot of things that I said I'd do differently. So they left there with a lot of pencil marks on that plan. So, because having the experience too and seeing reality and knowing even the resale factor on a home too, being builders, we know what's going to sell better, because if you do spec homes and so on, what sells. And plus we deal and hear from the customers what they want every single day.
Yep.
So it's huge, and that's awesome too. So, I mean, as far as CoConstruct's concerned too, I kind of want to talk about the scheduling on it too, and also if somebody was doing like products like selection phases and stuff like that, is there budgets that kind of go into it? Because every builder has majority of them has, like, say they're doing a custom home, especially in a custom home world, appliance allowances and stuff like that. How would you implement that towards the customer so they can kind of track that too?
Yeah. So the budget side of it, allowances, huge thing in custom or even semi-custom home building. In CoConstruct, you can have as many choices as you want. Like, let's talk about appliances, and I'll use a really simple example. You can give one of your customers a good, better, best breakdown.
Okay.
Your good appliance package might be $7,000. Your better appliance package 12, and your best is 25, or and it could go crazy, right? You could have $100,000 worth of appliances in a really big house, right? But that allows in CoConstruct, all of your selectable items can have as many different choices as they want. It's not great to have a lot of choices. It's great to be able to define, this is what's stylish now. These are the main sellers to help guide a customer. Too much choice is not a good thing, but it gives you the ability to, across all of your allowances, have a broad spectrum of pricing so that it gives your buyer or your customer the ability to do what if scenarios. Well, it's really important for us to have better appliances, so we're going to reduce the plumbing fixtures in the secondary bathrooms, and we're going to not do hardwood floor in the upper hall. We're going to do carpet. Those are the important things that that would be critical to a customer who's trying to make a bunch of selections, and the builder to have the ability to give the customer a bunch of options. And in our world as custom builders, I used to advise our clients, and this totally depends on what you put as selections. I would advise our clients that the typical 25% would be the number of your contract amount that would be an allowance. And that was what worked in the Chicago market and surrounding area for very high-end custom homes. And if you've got 30% of your contract budget being spent on allowances, then you're overbuilding. If you've got 20%, then you're underbuilding for the market. And so it was a nice kind of benchmark for our customers to use. And the builders that we work with all over the country have their own metrics for their own markets. But again, in CoConstruct, you have the ability to have all these options and for the clients to make decisions that empowers them to do so.
Which is awesome because, them being able to see the different and then layouts of how, okay, this is how we can implement it. So you're going to be at this with this. And then if you go this, you can save money here too, which is such a big topic to people too, especially as a builder, if you're bidding a job also, and you're going against another builder that just has a flat allowance. Well, okay, maybe he's at 7,000 for appliances. Well, I'm at 30. There's a big gap there. So, okay, if I brought it back down to where the 7 was, you can see where I'll be too. I'm right where he is. Who do you like better? Who will you work better with too? So that's awesome.
More detail helps your customer understand what they're actually getting. And as a builder, you should be recommending or educating your customer about that comparison for sure.
Mm-hmm. And as far as like details within CoConstruct too, is there a list for, like we do a general feature sheet? Is there ways to implement that into the software as if a builder's doing that, which most builders should, but.
Yes. So that's your specifications for your project, and your specifications exist in a template that you create. And as an example, for our company in Chicago, we had 30 different templates for different types of homes. Mm-hmm. And we would just go shopping, like almost in a grocery store, pull a specification from this template and a pool specification from that one and a roof from this one, and assemble a brand new custom home and then send it out to bid the actual numbers of the home. And it's absolutely a game changer. It saves so much time.
Time and definitely life changing. That's for sure.
So what it does, Bill, it really does this. For a home builder, taking all this stuff and putting it into CoConstruct or any kind of system allows you to create these contracts and create specifications and create budgets quickly. There's only 24 hours in a day, right? Even though home builders always think there's 36 hours in a day and there's 10 days in a week, right? We're always trying to do more than we can. There's only 24 hours in a day, and it frees you up to think about things like quality, to think about things like interaction with your customer, instead of just buried head deep in an Excel spreadsheet trying to hope that you didn't forget the porta-johns on the next project, right? You're able to focus on things like building a quality home and the building science behind what you're doing.
Well, to streamline that process too, because it is so time consuming bidding a job, and to have a more detailed way of doing it on top of a streamlined, to where it gets to the client, it's just easier on you, which, like you just said, it helps you to build that relationship with the client too. Because let's face it, in custom homes, when you're bidding a job, you're not always going to get them, and you spend a lot of time doing those bids. People don't understand that because it takes so much time you're basically flipping a coin to see if you're even going to get that job. So unless you go undercut somebody real low, but we're in the business to make money. Because it's a lot of work. So that's the thing with this, is just it helps streamline everything, make the process easier so you can focus on what matters more, like you said, and that's the customer. And that's huge.
What we find, Bill, is that there's somewhere between 10 and 20% of home builders use a system like CoConstruct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not a lot. And the ones that we work with are not losing jobs. They're not flipping coins, because once their customers see that they have command of the details of a project, like you're able to have command of a detail in CoConstruct, and then being able to track everything, there's no way that a customer is going to go with somebody who hands you, a stapled proposal out of the back of their truck. So it's a great circle of just good stuff between home builders and their customers when you've got it all together and you're in a system.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Great conversation on that too. So I've been asking this too, getting towards the end here. I've been asking everybody that's on my show this question because it's so important. So what about you personally? I mean, you built an amazing construction company, and now you have started a new journey. So what lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business or lives that can help us grow? Huge question.
Yeah. Lives or business?
I mean, because you've learned a lot throughout from the Marine Corps to construction and doing what you did in Chicago, now being in the technology world too. I mean,
always keep your ammunition dry. No, I'm kidding. No, I would say that there's really nothing more important than the people that you know, and I'm not saying who you know. It's the people in your life and your business that you interact with. There's literally nothing more important, right? You can get a new computer or a new truck or have a boat or whatever it is, but none of that's going to be there when the chips are down or when you need something. And to run your business and to live your life, like the people around you are the most important things in your life. I would say that there's no better lesson that I've learned than it's not about you. It's not about the person hearing this, right? It's about the person that is sitting in the car to your right or left. It's about the person you sit across from at the dining room table or across from you at the boardroom table. And it's their impact that you have, that they have on your life and that you have on theirs. That's the juice. That's what it's all about. And just if you can keep that in perspective, that'll make your life pretty fulfilling.
Yeah, probably one of the best answers I've had on that question, because what you just said is spot on. You surround yourself with people. The people you surround yourself with are who you're more than likely going to become in life, hands down.
Stuff comes and goes.
Exactly. You surround yourself with good people, and that are going to push you and so on. More than likely, you're going to be a good person. And you want to level up just with them. You grow together. That's for sure. So great answer to that. I've been asking this too, I've been asking this too, as far as, I always ask about, your past and so on. So I want to talk about your future. What are your plans for the future, whether it's in business, life, where will we see Spencer Padgett in the future? Who will you be?
Maybe in a cyber truck on the moon, right?
Awesome.
No, another lesson that I've learned is that, your plans are what's that song? It says your plans are just a prayer to Father Time, right? And I'd love to say that I'm going to travel up and down the East Coast on a catamaran with my wife and a couple poodles, but who knows? Right now I'm hoping that I'm blooming where I've been planted, and hoping that I'm affecting people and changing some lives and some builders' lives for the better. Where would I be in the future? Whatever's the right thing for me to be doing at the time. I don't have any expectation that it's always going to be CoConstruct. I really do love building houses, and I'll probably do a few more in my lifetime. But I just don't know. But I'm looking forward to getting there, wherever it is, the journey in between, obviously.
Yeah, you can't give up the building houses. I mean, no.
Yeah.
Once you're in this business, it's hard to give up. So I'm sure there'll be quite a few more houses in the future with you. So last question I always ask every single person on my show, what exactly do builders need to look for when choosing a construction software, and why should they choose CoConstruct as their company of choice?
They should really look for a software solution that knows their customers. And when I say knows their customers, doesn't talk a lot but acts, right? And in CoConstruct, we don't call people and ask them to buy our software. We let people know that our software is out there because it's just out on the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we let our customers figure out that, hey, we need a solution, and from what I read, this looks like a decent one. And when they call, we educate them, and that's the key, right? Is to educate them. And then if you're going to pick a horse to ride on, you want to pick a horse that focuses on your business. And we do nothing but home builders and remodelers, small to medium-sized home builders, small to medium-sized remodelers, a lot of semi-custom and custom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not really production type builders. So someone that focuses on what you do and thinks about the things that you need to do deeply. And that's definitely CoConstruct. I mean, the fact that this company hired an actual builder away from a home building company to come in and make sure that they were doing it as good as they possibly could, or as well as they possibly could, says a lot about this company. And the other thing, when I came on board, one of the first things I said to the staff here was, it's a lonely place to be a home builder. It's like you're on an island, because you can't talk to the home builder next to you about what should I do in this situation. And so what CoConstruct did to resolve that was created an online community and a forum. And they also have a session every year in somewhere that's warm in November, where hundreds of builders get together to use the software and talk about, like, these are the problems I'm having, these are the solutions I'm trying to come up with, contracts, templates, how to deal with customer issues. That's a win-win for everybody. We have this online community that they can talk on, and they can share information, and they can get face-to-face with each other. That's the biggest thing that I would say is it just a differentiator. Find a piece of software that's really focused on the home builder and what you do.
Awesome. Spencer, this has been awesome. So much great information, and especially on a topic that is becoming more and more popular too, as far as the technology world for contractors. And in my opinion, every contractor needs to hop on some form of technology if they want to stay legitimate in the business world, because it's moving so fast too.
Moving so fast, you got to get into it now, because it's not getting any easier, right? It's only getting more complicated. You got to do it. Exactly.
So, I mean, I really appreciate it. So last thing too, where can people find and connect with you?
It's CoConstruct.com. You can get in touch with the company there. It's CoConstruct.com. And my email, you can find me at spadgett, SPADGETT, at CoConstruct.com. Look me up on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram at Builder in Residence, all one word.
Nice. Spencer, I really appreciate you coming on this episode of The Real Build. It's been awesome. And we will see you guys on the next episode.